here with us. And now I will turn it over to you, Rachel.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Too bad we're not in person, huh? That's okay. We've been doing so many of these, it just feels like normal. I would much rather be in person because that's much more fun, of course, but there's a whole lot you can do on the Zoom. I'm pretty stunned, actually. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, in 1 second. Let me just make you, hold on 1 second. Make host. Okay, now you can share your screen.
Okay.
I hope so, at least. Did it pop up for you?
Hang on.
At the bottom, do you have like a, oh yeah, there we go.
Hey. Okay. Whoop. Okay. Now we're good. All right. So I wish I could see all your faces and this at the same time, but we are going to talk public speaking. And so I had the opportunity actually to speak to this group. I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was 2019 when we were over at Klein Dinatelli, I believe is where you guys had it. But we kind of touched on public speaking and interview. So today we're going to just dive right into public speaking. I don't know how much experience you all have had to date on public speaking or how comfortable you are, or if you have certain struggles, but regardless of where you are in this particular skill set, hopefully these brief tips and suggestions will help you no matter where you are in your journey, in your public speaking journey. And we'll touch on that a little bit more about why it's important no matter what area of life you end up going into. It's helpful now and it will carry you on for years and years and years. These skills are incredibly valuable. So let's move forward. So we are going to talk about how to become a dynamic public speaker, not just become an okay public speaker, but really dynamite, and what kind of skills you need to develop in order to become really formidable in this area. And not everyone is going to be this top-notch, excellent public speaker. So don't feel pressured like you have to be this amazing public speaker or be intimidated by the person before or after you that may have developed those skills a little bit better. That's okay. There are people that are just better at it, but practice, and we'll talk about this as we go forward, but practice is going to be really key because this is a skill that you can learn. It is a skill that you can develop and get really good at if you put the effort into becoming more skilled in this area. So don't be scared, but it is normal. So we are going to hit on these 5 bullet points, and hopefully there's some time afterward for questions and we can kind of get into a more Q&A style later, if that's okay. But the first thing I want to touch on, which I think is the most important, and that's confidence. And confidence is going to carry you through your entire speech or interview or whatever it is that you're doing. That confidence is going to be paramount. Because when you are confident, your audience is confident, and you want them to feel that so that you are trustworthy and what you're saying and what you're delivering to your audience is trusted by them. And confidence is something, again, that I think you can learn. Although, since becoming a mother, I am pretty confident that that is kind of part of our makeup. And I shared this story the last time I spoke, but my son, he's 8 right now, and he is wildly confident. I mean, I envy his confidence. He's just good at everything. I mean, everything. He is the best baseball player you've ever seen, right? He runs faster than his brother. He just wants you to know that he's incredibly skilled and you are not. And that's the confidence of an 8-year-old, and it's kind of envious. But that's how he is. And it's my job, of course, as his mom, to teach him humility. It's good to be confident, and it's funny when an 8-year-old is confident, but when you become older, you're just obnoxious and arrogant. So that confidence needs to be a little bit fine-tuned, but having it is beautiful. It's an incredible thing. But body language is also, I would say, a critically important aspect immediately following confidence. I think confidence is just huge. I think even if you have no idea what you're saying, if you can exude confidence, not bordering on arrogance, of course, but exude a humble confidence, I think that is incredibly, incredibly valuable. But your body language is really, really, really critical as well. Your body language says almost more than what you're saying verbally. So that's something to really pay attention to. What is your body saying? Are you hunched over? Do you have darting eyes? Do you look kind of sketchy? Stand up straight, look people in the eyes if you're in person. There's a lot of things to watch when it comes to body language. If you speak with your hands, I speak with my hands often, but if they're within view of, say, your screen, or I've been on camera a lot. So if you know that your hands are going to be on camera, it's something to really be mindful of, because you don't want to be like this. It's good to talk with your hands, but too much can just be a huge distraction. And that's all people see is your hands. And they have no idea what you just said, because your hands are all over the place and just incredibly distracting. So watch the body language. Another thing is the toes and the feet, the tapping. The sound of your toes tapping is highly distracting, but not just the sound, but it makes your whole body move. So if you've ever stood in front of a crowd and have given a speech or sat in an interview and you've tapped, it makes your whole body shake. And it makes the person that you're talking to, or the people that you're talking to, feel a little nervous. I'm like, what is wrong with this girl? She either is nervous beyond belief, or she had way too much caffeine. Something to tone down the body language, because your body language says a lot. So be very cognizant of what your body is saying. Next bullet point is be prepared. So you guys all know already probably that this is an incredibly important aspect of public speaking, because it's important across the board in everything else that you do. You guys know that throughout school, when you've had exams or athletics, you have to be prepared, or you should be prepared to fail, right? You guys have heard that. So being prepared is critical in public speaking as well. So being prepared means that you have developed an outline, or perhaps just some talking points that have allowed you to lay out exactly what you're going to say and when. So you want to lay out, what are my key messages? What are the most important things here that I want to hit, and write them down. And I like just doing the bullet points. I don't like writing a whole, thesis about what I'm about to talk about. Just bullet points, so that you know things that you want to talk about, so you don't forget them. But it gives you room to speak candidly about certain things. And I think that if you just memorize, it actually makes you more nervous. But that's just me. Sometimes memorizing things is really, really helpful for people, but you have to test that out for yourself and see what works for you. But the bullet points, I think, is a really, really good guide. And then you look at those bullet points and you know exactly what you want to touch on. And then part of being prepared, of course, is doing your homework. Is there something that you need to research? make sure you do that well in advance so that you are very, very prepared. Do your homework, do your research. It shows that you have a respect for your audience, and it shows that you have a respect for the topic at hand. And if it's a job interview someday down the line or whatever it is, and when you guys do self-expression and you do those things where you have to participate in public speaking events, or you're at a birthday party, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Do a little research, do your homework, be prepared. That will make you, in turn, going back to the first bullet, give you confidence. So it's good to have confidence, but being prepared will just boost that ever more. So, I mean, I could give you guys a topic and say, tell me about distinguished young women, what it means to you, why you're involved in it. You could probably give me a pretty good brief speech about that. But if I told you to give me a speech on the biology of something or the political nature of X, Y, and Z, you probably won't feel as confident because you're not as prepared. Next bullet point, the fourth one here, is practice. Now, I don't love the phrase practice makes perfect because I don't think that that's true. I do think that practice makes you better. Practice makes you better, just like with anything else. I'm a former athlete. I played volleyball and basketball. I was a point guard and a shooting guard. And my dad would make me do like 100 free throws, every weekend in preparation for a game. And I got really, really good at free throws because I was always, always practicing. And this is applicable to public speaking. You can, as I said at the very beginning, develop skills in this area. So if it's not your strong suit right now, don't let that deter you. It's something that you can practice, and it's something that you can develop and build upon and really get good and get a lot better anyway at that. So it's imperative that you do practice though, and give yourself plenty of time before any event where you do have to give a public presentation or speech. Give yourself plenty of time so that you can practice. And I would recommend recruiting friends, recruiting your family members or relatives, anybody that you can find that will entertain that practice so that you can stand up. I would get dressed in a way that in something that you're going to wear to whatever it is that you're speaking at, and really get prepared, get your mind ready, and speak in front of others to really get the full effect. And that will give you a lot of confidence. If you continue to practice in that way, it will just build your confidence. It gives you a really good idea of what to expect too. And if you're really brave, you can recruit those friends and family members to give you some constructive criticism or constructive feedback. And I think that's hugely helpful. And I would not take that too personally, but take what they have to say into consideration. Maybe I moved around too much. Maybe I played with my hair. Maybe I did this. Maybe it was highly distracting. I didn't even realize I was doing it. But because you practice in front of other people and they called you out on it, something that you're a little more aware of, a little more cognizant of. And so that the next time you practice, you're hopefully not doing those things. And then this last bullet point is one of my favorites: embrace the pause. We are a culture and society that talks and talks and talks nonstop. And if there's ever a pause, it's just awkward, right? You don't have to fill every single void. It will just make you nervous, and you're way more susceptible to saying, like, and using those filler words because you feel like you have to fill that space. Embrace the pause. Use it as a second to take a breath, gather your thoughts, and just embrace that pause. And a lot of times it actually draws your audience back to you. So if they're kind of zoning out or distracted, and you allow a little bit of a pause, that kind of brings their attention back to you. So I would take advantage of that. But use that pause and practice that pause so that you're not saying those filler words, those really common filler words that just make you sound unprepared. And this is one, I love this quote. Arnold, I think it was Arnold Palmer. The funny thing is, the more I practice, the luckier I get. Gee, right? The more I practice, the luckier you get. And obviously that's not luck. That was practice. And that's super important. I cannot emphasize practice enough. I can say from personal experience that practice has changed everything. No matter what it is, if I spend time practicing that, I improve. And I would try to find things, very specific things to practice. So maybe it's your projection, your voice projection. Maybe it's not talking as much with your hands. Maybe it's your stance. Find something that you know you need to work on and really focus on that. Practice that. But again, do it in front of other people. It's a lot different when you are practicing by yourself in front of a mirror or practicing in front of your family and friends. Try to create a more realistic situation in preparation for whatever event you're going to be speaking at. So why should you improve your public speaking? What does it matter? I have a brother-in-law and he thinks that you're never going to use that. It doesn't matter. But it does. It totally, totally does. And no matter what it is that you're going to be doing, you do not have to go into politics or anything like that. To be a good speaker can prepare you to be a good leader. And that doesn't matter where you end up, what industry you end up. It can prepare you for leadership in whatever that industry is. So being a good speaker it's not always the case, but it can set you up to be a good leader. Most of the great leaders in human history were very adept at public speaking. It was a skill they were very good at. And if you guys have ever seen The King's Speech, that is a fantastic movie. And he is stumbling and stuttering. He's a terrible speaker. He gets incredibly nervous, but he has always had a stutter. And he hires a coach to essentially mentor him to improve in this area because he knows he is not seen as a good leader because he can't speak very well. And he gets so much better, and you could see the confidence. You could see him improve, and you could see him be taken more seriously by the constituents that he served. So that's a really, really great movie if you haven't seen it. So being a good speaker could create or groom you to be a better leader. And being a good leader will just increase opportunities for you. So you will be given more opportunities, whether it be social settings or your future job, your current job, whatever it is that you do when you have interactions, other human interactions where you are to speak publicly. If you do a good job in this area and you become more of a leader, you are going to naturally be given more opportunity. That in and of itself is an exciting reason to hone and perfect this skill. And this is another quote that I really love. Confidence isn't walking into a room thinking you are better than everyone. It's walking in not having to compare yourself to anyone at all. And that is a great snapshot of what confidence is. And I totally believe in this quote because once you associate confidence with being better than other people, you step into this arrogance realm, and that is going to be very easily felt by your audience. They see that, they feel that, and it's just it's gross, dicky. It doesn't make you look good. It's not worth it. And no one is really that hot stuff. Sorry, you're just not. Okay. but you can hold yourself in a confident manner, in such a confident manner where you're not arrogant, but you just are prepared. You've practiced, you feel good, and other people see that. And so keep this quote in mind when you're practicing, when you're preparing for anything. It's walking in or stepping up on stage or sitting in that interview, not having to compare yourself to the person that came before you or the person that's going to come after you. You don't have to do it. You practiced, you prepared, you did what you needed to do to get better and to prepare for whatever it is that you're preparing for. Don't worry about what others are doing. That was my super brief presentation. I hope that was a little bit helpful. There are so many other things we could talk about with regard to public speaking. I have had so many opportunities on stage and in front of cameras and news stations, whether it be recorded or live. So I have done it all. I have made the mistakes. I have practiced. I have gotten better. And I'm just happy and privileged to be able to share some of these tips and tricks with you. I am the Director of Communications at Providence Strategic Consulting here in Bakersfield. So I have the opportunity to do a whole lot of this. And we are actually busier now than we've ever been in the history of our firm. So there are going to be a whole lot of opportunities for me to be stepping back into the public speaking space, which I'm very excited about. So if you guys have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them.
I have a quick question.
Go for it.
So we were speaking to Skyla Nelson yesterday, and she kind of said something that struck me very hard, which is that she never used to get nervous with public speaking until it went online, which is totally true for me. I never have an issue speaking with people face to face, but you plot me down in front of a camera and suddenly I forget the entire English language. So would you have any advice for how to kind of combat that?
Particularly when you're in front of a camera?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that you have to prepare. I mean, it goes back to practicing. I would practice differently. So what I would do is I would take a camera. I would actually practice in front of the actual camera and record yourself even. I've recorded myself and been like, ugh, yikes, I've got to redo that. And that's good. That's good because you're highlighting exactly what you need to improve. And when we do media training, so I do media training here. And so when I have a client come in, I put them on camera and we get to watch them and they hate it. They absolutely hate it every single time, but they get better and they learn. And during this 3-hour period, they go from petrified of the camera to, I didn't love that, but it wasn't so bad. So I think practicing in front of camera and rewatching yourself is really helpful because you can see, oh, that's what I'm going to look like when that goes online. And you can change things, change how you talk or change where you're sitting. There's a lot you can adjust, but I think that just comes with practice.
Awesome, thank you.
You bet.
I hate to interject real quick. Would you mind making me the host again? I guess there's a few participants who want to join a little late here and I can't let them in as you're the host. I'm sorry. This Zoom, I'm getting a hold of it, but it's still all new.
Okay, how about I stop sharing?
Awesome. And then I think
That works okay?
Yeah, so all you is all you have to do is click the 3 dots by my name and then it'll say make host and then I can be the host again. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. I'm going to let those girls in. Continue. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I think as far as being on camera, that's the best advice I have is practice, but that's always going to be my advice, is making sure that you practice in the same way that it's going to be. So if you're going to if it's going to be online or you're going to be on film, on camera, I would practice on camera. But if you're going to practice I mean, if you're going to be in person at some sort of speaking event where you're live, I would try to practice in front of real people, bodies that can watch you in the moment.
So just a follow-up question that you speak so highly of practice. How would you recommend practicing if you don't have like a sample audience, right? Like if you've never done public speaking in front of an audience before, how would you practice that before going up?
I would try to record myself. Yeah, I think if you can even take your iPhone and put it on a little tripod, a little away from you, and practice that way, watch yourself. There's so much to learn from that. Recording yourself and seeing how you speak. Did you project your voice very well? Did you fidget too much? You can rewatch it and critique yourself. So I think that's important.
This is gonna be a weird question, but I was just wondering, like, what hand positions do you usually do when you do public speaking? It's just because, like, for me, like, I do MUN, and sometimes when we do public, when we have to, like, speak for speeches or whatever, it's like just like the hand thing has always been hard for me. Can you guys hear me?
I can barely hear you. I think you were talking about hands. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I heard the first part of the question. Kind of like, what should you do with your hands when you're public speaking? Is that what you're asking, Skylar? Oh, she might be frozen, but this is being recorded, so I'll ask.
Okay.
What's a good idea? Like, you know, because I know some girls do the latch on and they never let go of their other hand.
Yeah.
Like me, move their arms so much, like you said before, it's distracting. Yes, she's saying, she put in the chat, yes, exactly.
Okay.
What do you do with your hands?
Okay, so I like to keep them at my waist, and you can't really see. Hold on. But I like to, that doesn't work either. I just keep them here. I keep them here, and I try to talk with my hands, but again, not like a crazy person, but I keep them here loosely at my waist. And I just make sure that they're not super tight, because then you look petrified. If you can kind of loosely hold your hands together and remember to use them as a tool while you're talking, not again, overly use them. But if you can keep them here at your waist, I think it reminds you that you do need to talk with your hands, but it's not uncomfortable. And it depends on where you are too. So if I'm doing a radio interview or something, I don't need to worry about my hands. A podcast, if they're only doing waist up, again, you might not have to worry about your hands. I have a desk in front of me right now, and I'm putting my hands on the desk. And if that can help you kind of control your hands, if you have a tendency to overuse your hands when you talk, maybe you have the opportunity to kind of hang on to that podium or a table and focus on keeping your hands there. I hope that helps.
So after like practicing for like different questions and like doing the best to prepare, like do you have any tips for like if they give you a question that completely throws you off or you weren't expecting, how do you like get back on your feet and think quickly to answer that response?
That is a fantastic question. And I have had that happen to me a couple times. And in my personal experience, it depends on what the subject is. How are they throwing you off? Are they being rude, or are they just switching subjects and you weren't expecting it? It just depends. But I think acknowledging that you are a little tripped up is not a bad thing. And it shows humility and that you're human and it's okay. Well, except you don't say, I wasn't expecting that. What a great question. Or I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out and I will get back to you. And showing a little bit of humility in that maybe you weren't prepared for that question, but you're going to find out. I think just trying to adapt as best as you can is all you can really do. And just keeping that confidence. So as best as you can. It's never fun to be thrown off, especially when people do it antagonistically. I've had people that they're trying to throw you under the bus, and I just think you have to smile and continue and roll with it as best as you can. But I think it really depends on the question that they're asking.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, I'm not too bad at public speaking, but occasionally my brain will be going so fast that I answer questions, and then sometimes I'll slip up or I'll say something and I'll be like, whoa, gotta reel it back a little bit. How do you react to slipping up like that without making it like ridiculously obvious? Where I'll mess up and I'll be like, oh, sorry, let me just, without making it like, whoa, you know?
Yeah, I think that happens sometimes. Not to totally belabor this, and you're probably going to be so sick and tired of me saying this, but the more you practice, the less susceptible you are to having those things happen. If I am unprepared, I am way more likely to make those slip ups, and you look unprepared, honestly. So if you can practice as much as humanly possible, you are going to make yourself far, far less susceptible to making those errors. So practice, practice, practice. And if you do still find yourself sort of slipping up and you didn't mean to, go back to that pause. Take a minute or say something and I'll stop there, or pause and try to wrap it up. Thank you for the question. Then zip it and try to put a pin in it and end the question so that they can ask you a new one. But again, the practice is going to be enormously helpful because, like with anything else, you just walk into something unprepared and not ready for it. You're going to look like it. You're going to look unprepared and not ready. Good question, though.
Do you have any pre-public speaking rituals or certain things that you do that help you appear more calm, especially if it's a high stress interview or some kind of television performance?
Yep. Another fantastic question. And yes, I wouldn't say it's a ritual, but I like to make sure I am taking a few deep breaths, because sometimes you can get, when you get nervous, you're not breathing right. So taking a full deep breath a few times really, really helps calm your nerves. And so I like to do that. There are times where I have been preparing for an on-camera interview and it was live, so you cannot make mistakes. When they're recording, you can say, whoa, that's terrible. Can I redo that? And usually they're great about saying, yeah, let's redo that. And then you can kind of get it out and try again. But when it's live, you got that one shot to get it right. And so I have actually done some jumping jacks. Call me crazy. But when you kind of can get that energy, that nervous energy out a little bit, that helps me a lot. Or go for a really quick walk, listen to music. I love listening to music. I like all kinds of different types of music. So if you can kind of listen to something that either maybe you want something that really pumps you up, that's really energizing, or something more calm, it just really depends on your mood. But figure out what helps you kind of chill. And, that could be a whole host of things, going for a walk, listening to music, whatever it is that you do. But those are some of the things that I like to do. And if I'm driving somewhere, so if I'm driving to an interview, I use that time in the car to rehearse what I'm saying. And again, that's more practice, but it's where you don't have your notes in front of you. You don't have a screen. You don't have your phone. You don't have a tablet. It's just you talking to yourself in the car. But it's good to run through what you've practiced again while you're driving. I do that all the time, talk to myself while I'm going somewhere. And it helps kind of get that nervous energy out too.
Do we have any other questions? I feel like you guys are just getting nervous now that you're thinking about it.
It's okay if you're nervous. It means you care.
I know beforehand, we were talking about like kind of starting and ending your speech. And I was saying, because for self-expression, there's no like one way to do it, but you definitely want to like let the audience know you're starting and let the audience know you're stopping. Do you have any like ways you like opening up your speeches or ending your speeches, or does it kind of, I mean, it obviously varies for your audience, but
Yeah.
do you have any like, I don't know, like thank you and good evening or lines that you love, or are you just kind of like depend?
Yeah, and I don't know what it looks like for you guys, if you have rules on how you open those up, or
They can do anything, and basically they're asked a
Okay.
question and then they're given 30 seconds to speak on it.
okay. So do they have an opportunity to introduce themselves before they're asked questions?
So it's very strange. It's a digital all this year. So basically what it will like, they will call into a Zoom meeting and I'll just be like, okay, here we go. And they just record it. So they can introduce themselves, but they don't have to. It's all very optional. It's the self-expression of it all.
Gotcha.
So maybe just, I don't know if you had any examples or anything like that.
Mhm.
I'm not the greatest at public speaking. I ramble on. So just any kind of tips on that.
Yeah. Like you said, it does depend on your audience. So if you know your audience, that's one of the biggest things. That's what we talk about in our firm all the time. Whether you're public speaking or you're doing marketing, know your audience. You know who you're talking to. That's really, really important. If you kind of get an idea of the types of folks that you're going to be speaking to, do that homework, get that background on who it is you're speaking to. But if you can open up with a great quote, or depending on your audience again, a joke, something really funny to kind of lighten the mood, you're going to make you feel really good. You're going to make your audience feel really good. You look very personable and approachable. So I would open with something like that if you're given the opportunity. If you have a great quote that means a lot to you, or maybe tell a story. Tell a story about a particular time where it kind of molded you or helped develop your way of self-expression. Tell a story. That's what I would probably do.
Speaking of starting the response, in an interview setting, when they give you the question, is it best to just pause as soon as you receive it, like when you're thinking of your answer, to pause or to nod your head or say something like, wow, that's a great question? How should you start your response, especially if you're trying to think of an answer on the fly?
That's a good question. I would pause and wait. I don't think that you need to jump in to say something just for the sake of saying something. I would pause, nod, really listen, and let them know that you're listening, that it's not always about you speaking, but are you listening to the question? Did you hear the question? And give yourself a minute to absorb it and answer it fully and respectfully. How long is this portion? How many questions do you typically get?
They get one. So they each,
One question. Okay.
yeah, they get one question and they have like around 30 seconds to speak their mind.
No pressure.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed something you did earlier. We were talking about, one, I'm a pause filler. So I love your advice on embracing the pause. That's some very, very good advice, ladies. But also the ums. So I noticed earlier you corrected and you went, no, oh. So do you have any, from someone who says and like far more than they should, do you have any other little buzzwords that you try to switch out in your brain, or have you gone way past the ums and the likes at this point in your public speaking journey?
Oh, that's tricky, because when you replace the filler words, you end up creating new filler words for yourself. I know at one point, I was so desperate to stop saying that I would say so. And that was just, well, so that didn't work out so well. I think doing your best to just pause. And what I have recommended to people is don't wait until you have to practice these things. Practice these things every day. You guys should be practicing how to speak intelligently every day. And you should ask your friends and family, those very, very close to you who know you like the back of their hand, know what you do, know your ums and your uhs and your likes, and ask them, when I say those things, stop me. Help me to stop saying and like. I need to get better at not using filler words and speaking better. Help me. I would ask them throughout the day. Again, don't wait until you absolutely have to practice these things. Start practicing them now. And then it's a game changer for sure. But if you do catch yourself about to say or maybe take a breath. It feels really, really awkward, but don't worry about that. That pause is going to help you. Take a breath. I think people are generally pretty gracious when you take a second, but when you're constantly saying and then and like and that's all they're going to hear, and that's all they will remember. So it is worth it to just take that brief second to give yourself a little bit of a pause. But again, if you can have people calling you out, giving you constructive criticism throughout your day, it will make you a better speaker.
That's awesome. Thank you. That was very good. Do you ladies have more questions?
I just thought of one more. So, how can you appear more energetic or lively when you're on Zoom? Because it's a lot easier when you're in person to kind of feed off of each other's energy. But if you want to really show your personality and be energetic, what are some ways you can do that?
That is a fantastic question. That's something we have run into over and over again for the last year and a half. And unfortunately, I think there is Zoom fatigue. I do think it's just the nature of the platform that you're on. It's very, very challenging to stay engaged, and it's very challenging to be engaging. I think that's just the nature of the situation that we're in. Having said that, you should be making the best of it. And these Zoom meetings and digital presentations are probably not going to disappear. They might be less frequent or not the first choice for a lot of people, but you might still find yourself having to be in these situations. If you can set up the area around you in a way that is conducive for you and your confidence. Right now I'm standing. I have a stand sit desk that I can adjust. And I know for me personally, if I sit, I don't feel as in it. I don't feel as energized. If I'm sitting during a presentation, it just doesn't quite feel like a presentation. So if you can, when you're getting on these Zoom meetings and Zoom interviews and calls, set up your area in a way that makes you feel really comfortable. If you are more comfortable standing, if you like being able to stand up tall and stand up straight, just as if you were doing a in-person, a live presentation, make the space that you're in as similar to that environment as you possibly can. And I know you'll probably be a little bit hindered just because of where you are, and that's okay. But if you can set it up in a way that, okay, this feels really good, I'm really comfortable like this. Because if you're not, it's going to come off and you will feel a little less confident and thus bore your audience to death, probably, because you're not comfortable. You don't feel good about where you are, what you're standing on or in. So make sure your environment is conducive to that and that you have no distractions. I think if you have a lot of distractions, like your dogs over there and your cats hanging from the ceiling and whatever else is going on, you have a sibling or kids, whatever, that's highly distracting. So your environment, when you're doing these digital meetings and calls, is really important. So make sure you're set up and all clear.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions, ladies? No, we're doing okay. I feel like they all just got very nervous. You guys are going to do great. Very great.
Yeah, you will. You'll do great. You'll do great. Hopefully those tips were helpful. Was that helpful? I hope that was kind of helpful. Yeah. Not everybody's going to be, an amazing public speaker, but the more you do it, the better you'll feel about it. I promise you that.
I love that. And I love that Rachel's right. You don't have to be born a fantastic public speaker. You can acquire those skills and work at them over time to equip you with everything that you need. You know, you don't have to be like, I don't have that. Like, no, you can totally have that.
Just got to be willing to work on it. You can do it. You can absolutely do it.
Righty. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to
You're
probably
very welcome.
do some practice questions here so we can put those tips to use.
Awesome.
But thank you. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts or anything you want to add, or that was great.
That is all. I don't know if you guys need it or want it, but I'm going to drop my email in the chat and you guys can write me at any time. I can send you the deck I just used, or if you have any quick questions for me, I would be very happy to answer those.
Awesome. Thank you. And I screenshotted your quotes. Great quotes, by the way. I
Oh,
love
good.
walking
I
into
know.
a room
those
one.
are
That's
good.
like, keep that in my bank
They
forever.
were encouraging. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Good. Well, if there's
Thank
anything
you
else,
so
you guys
much.
let me know. Otherwise, thank you so very much and best of luck. You can do it.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. I know all the girls who didn't get to make it today are really going to appreciate it. This has been a long anticipated workshop. So thank you
Good.
so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for reaching back out after I emailed you also. So wonderful. Thank you. I really
You're
appreciate it.
welcome. Not a problem at all. Thank
Awesome.
you guys. Have a good rest of your week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great one.
Bye.